So you've probably seen the headlines popping up everywhere. The US government is shutting down. But, what does that really mean? Let's get into it.
Yeah, because that's really the big question, isn't it? I mean, forget the political drama for a second. How does a government shutdown actually affect you? Your day-to-day life, your wallet, the services you count on. That's what we're going to break down right now.
Okay, so first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. What even is a government shutdown? It's a term that sounds pretty dramatic, and honestly, in a lot of ways, it really is.
Okay, so at its heart, a shutdown is basically a funding gap. When Congress can't agree on a budget, some government operations they run out of money. Now, the key words to remember here are partial and non-essential. This isn't some kind of total collapse, right? The really crucial stuff keeps going, but a whole lot of other services, they just grind to a halt.
And just to be clear, this is not something that happens all the time. In fact, it's been more than 6 years since lawmakers hit this kind of impasse and couldn't reach a deal. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
All right, now for the part that really matters to all of us, the personal impact. How are you going to feel the effects of the shutdown?
So let's take a look at the immediate fallout. I guess the good news is that the core services are protected. Your Social Security checks, Medicare payments, those will keep coming. The mail's still going to run. But, and this is a big but, the disruptions are pretty significant. You might see national parks close their gates. If you're trying to get a small business loan or even some mortgages, expect delays. And air travel, that could get messy because essential folks like TSA agents and air traffic controllers, they have to keep working, but they're doing it without getting paid.
A huge reason we're even in this mess is a political fight over healthcare costs. And this isn't just some abstract debate happening in Washington. No, this has a very real, very specific price tag for millions of families out there.
So what kind of price tag are we talking about here? Well, it could be this number, $2,718. That's a really specific number, right? So what does it actually mean?
Well, according to a nonpartisan analysis, that's how much extra a family of 3 could end up paying in health insurance premiums next year. See, at the very heart of this budget fight is a debate over extending tax credits that help lower healthcare costs. If those credits disappear because of this gridlock, millions of people could see their insurance bills just shoot up.
And that right there, that brings us to the political standoff that got us here in the first place. So let's take a look at what each side is actually fighting for.
Okay, so it really boils down to this. On one side, Democrats are saying any funding bill has to reverse cuts to Medicaid programs and extend those healthcare tax credits we just talked about. On the other side, Republicans are pushing for what's called a continuing resolution. It's basically a temporary fix to keep the lights on while they keep negotiating. But as of right now, nobody's budging.
And here's where the political math gets tricky. Even though one party has majorities in both chambers and the White House, the rules in the Senate mean they still need some votes from the other party to actually pass a funding bill. And that need for compromise? That's the exact reason everything is at a complete standstill.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here. A shutdown isn't just about services getting paused. It has a really profound human and economic cost. And if we want to get a sense of what might happen now, all we have to do is look back at the last shutdown. For hundreds of thousands of federal workers, the fallout was, it was immediate and it was pretty harsh. So during that last shutdown, you had 380,000 federal employees who were furloughed. That's a fancy way of saying they were labeled non-essential and basically just sent home with no paycheck.
And then on top of that, another 420,000 workers were considered essential. We're talking about people like TSA agents, law enforcement, folks we rely on. They had to keep showing up to work, but they didn't get a single paycheck until the shutdown was finally over.
But this time around, the stakes might be even higher. The White House has actually brought up the possibility of not just furloughs, but straight-up layoffs. They've told agencies to get ready for firings if a deal doesn't happen. I mean, that just adds a whole new, terrifying level of uncertainty for these workers. And the ripple effects, they just keep going. When you have hundreds of thousands of people suddenly without an income, what happens? They stop spending money, and that hurts the entire economy. Not to mention really important data, like the monthly jobs report that Wall Street relies on, that could be delayed too. So it's simple, really. The longer this thing drags on, the bigger the hit to the economy.
So, the government is officially shut down. The big question is, what happens now? Where do we possibly go from here?
Well, we're definitely past the point of if. The shutdown is a reality. So now the whole conversation, all the focus, it's shifted to one single critical question. How long is this going to last?
To get some idea of how long this could actually go on, just think about this number, 34.
34 days. That's how long the last government shutdown dragged on for. Back in 2018 and 2019, it was the longest in American history. And that sets a pretty sobering precedent, showing that these fights can be incredibly long and drawn out.
And really, that's the huge question hanging over everything right now. You've got both sides completely dug in, the stakes are incredibly high, and honestly, there is just no clear end in sight. All those services, all those workers, the entire economy, everyone is just waiting for an answer.